Hello, St. John's. For those of you that don't know me, my name is Lauren Harding, and I have a story. David Mathis once said about the hymn, "Come Thou Fount," that we live in the tension of this moment known as the present, where the rapids of the future rush towards us and collect behind us into the pool of the past. We know who our God has shown himself to be. He is the fountain of every blessing. He is the streams of mercy that never cease. I remember all the stones of help that have collected into that pool of the past. Each of them is an Ebenezer that I have raised so that I do not forget all that my eyes have seen, nor let it fade from my heart all the days of my life, and that I will tell it to my children and to their children's children. And so that is why I'm here today, is because I have been afforded the opportunity to share one of those stones of help with you all. When I married Will in 2011, we wanted our ceremony to represent the union of two becoming one. So we asked Pastor Bob from his family's church to wed us in a ceremony that would take place at my hometown church. We both loved that church. That church taught us what being the hands and feet of Jesus felt like, what open hearts and doors looked like, and what impact being part of a spiritual community could have on your daily walk. But in time, we sadly found that it was hard to feel tethered to a spiritual community that was so far away from our own physical community. The idea of leaving the first church that I had ever truly belonged to was really hard. Harder still was that the decision didn't feel like it was purely ours, since for the first time we had a pudgy little passenger riding in the backseat, baby V. And of course, as with all stories, you know that is probably not the whole story. And so I think the core of my fear was that if my motives weren't entirely pure, would I be forfeiting God's involvement in our future plans? So with that and many more unanswered questions swirling through our heads, on April 19th of 2015, we got dressed for church, and for the first time we turned into town instead of away from it. We decided to visit a set of pews that we had visited several times before during our premarital counseling. I would like to blame jitters on our late arrival that morning, but if you've attended a service with us since, you know that time management is not my spiritual gift. So as I tardily took my first step down that green carpeted aisle, my ears were filled with a joyful sound of the Wallace State Choir performing "Come Thou Fount." That was and still remains my longtime favorite hymn of choice. I don't want to shortchange the magnitude of that moment by just leaving it as it's my favorite. So I'm going to attempt to give words to the indescribable feeling of the Holy Spirit at work within me during that moment. So we all know the trick where someone uses their voice to shatter a glass. That is the best visual that I can think of to describe how those college musicians completely unwittingly shattered me on that morning. Better still, they shattered all of the fears and doubts that I had been harboring for months. Left in their wake was a peace beyond measure, an assurance that I was exactly where God wanted me to be when He wanted me to be there. A blessed assurance. Over that summer, St. John's gave new meaning to the phrase, you don't know what you are missing until you encounter it, because encounter it we did, but rather than it, I think it was more a he. We encountered the Holy Spirit in sermons, in people, in groups. Best of all, I think for one of the first times that I can really remember paying attention to, I encountered Him at work within me. We were so certain in and comforted by the presence of Him that it wasn't even a decision to join. And so on October 11th of that same year, we made our way down that green carpeted aisle, and for once, we were on time. And so as we excitedly readied ourselves in our pew, I will never forget the look on Will's face as he opened my bulletin and pointed to the opening hymn, which was none other than Come Thou Fount. That Sunday, He bound my wandering heart to Thee. And so I rose an Ebenezer in remembrance to the Lord who rose on Calvary. He has since at St. John's provided for us not just a stream of mercy, but a fountain of grace. We are so grateful to not only be members of St. John's, to have been called here has been truly one of the greatest blessings of our lives. Truly.
Do you like that?